We live in a world of ghosting. Nobody leaves dramatically anymore. They don't file complaints. They don't send angry letters. They simply stop showing up. They stop engaging. They stop investing. And they stop caring. So in my role, I know a little bit about this. I'm an executive at a fairly large professional association. And my job is everything that has to do with membership. So growing our organization, but more importantly, retaining our most valuable members. And I can tell you, the one thing that keeps me up at night, surprisingly, isn't stuff like staffing issues or technology or budget cuts or even the competition. None of the things that we talk about in our regular weekly strategy meetings. What keeps me up at night is actually a question, one question. And that question is, if your organization disappeared tomorrow, would the people you serve genuinely feel the loss? Or would they simply find a replacement for you before the week was out? Not long ago, I started doing something that executives of fairly large organizations probably delegate. I started calling our members the ones who chose not to return because I wanted to hear it in their own words. So you can imagine getting ready for these calls, I prepared to hear complaints. I prepared to hear perhaps some angry voices. But the call that changed me wasn't angry at all. So this member, she'd been a member for quite some time. So tenured, she'd been engaged. Up until that point, she'd been loyal. And when I reached her, she had nothing but great things to say about us, the organization, and our mission. But on that call, she told me she needed to be more careful about how she spent her money and how she spent her time. And she just didn't see or realize the value in staying any longer. That call, that was the moment I formed this hypothesis that changed everything about how I led. And that hypothesis is we were no longer relevant. See, what happened to us surprisingly wasn't unique. It was a pattern. We had been the trusted place, the only place for years. If you needed resources, advocacy, training, or the connections to be successful in our industry, you had to come to us. But one day this thing comes along, you might know what it is, or you may know about it. It's called the internet. And our one place, our only place, became just one of many places. And all of a sudden, people had different places to go. I'd like you to think about somebody in your organization who used to be fully engaged. They came to everything. They invested their time. They were excited to be there. Maybe they even did extra volunteering. And then one day, you look up and you realize they had simply gone somewhere else. They had found somewhere else to be. And it was a surprise to you. You hadn't noticed. And what's really tricky about this, is there's rarely this dramatic moment of failure. But instead, there's this slow, quiet erosion of meaning. And this is going to be a little painful, but I'd be willing to bet that somewhere in your organization right now, this is happening. So now's the time to ask yourself, Do the people you exist to serve still feel you matter? So, in unpacking all of this, that phone call, all that stuff, I realized we had confused what we were delivering, the value we were delivering, with what people were actually feeling. And those are not the same things. You see, there's tangible value. Tangible value, that lives on a spreadsheet. Tangible value is what you point to when people ask what they're getting for their money. It's what you provide. It's what you give. But there's perceived value. And perceived value, that doesn't live on a spreadsheet. It's powerful. Perceived value, that lives in the heart. It's the feeling and the meaning they attach to what you deliver. This all forced me to ask a bigger question. What makes an organization impossible to leave? So far, everything I've shared with you today, the phone call, the research we did into how the human mind decides what's valuable and what isn't, all of it pointed to three pillars. And I like to think of them as like three cylinders to an engine: relevance, experience, and value. Relevance is like the key to the locked door. Without it, nothing you do gets through. Relevance is what makes people say, this is the right place for me. Experience is the moments you design or fail to design. It's what people feel about what you do. Experience, good experience, is what makes the cost of time seem virtually irrelevant. Experience is I feel good, I feel better about myself when I'm here. And value, perceived value, not tangible, right? In the heart, not on the spreadsheet. And real solid value produces that feeling of, yeah, you know what? I couldn't do without this place. That's perceived value. When you put these three things together, relevance, experience, value, it created this method, and I call it the REV method. Think of it like an engine, right? That's revving up to move forward. Because the truth is, you can't lead the race if you're sitting there stuck in park. It's not a one-time thing. It's not a campaign. REV is not a turnaround strategy. It's more special than that. It's like a lens that allows you to look through the eyes of the people you serve so that you can see if they're feeling that this place is built for them. So you can see if they're feeling the worth. So you can see, or hear maybe, if they feel you are worth coming back for. And when these three cylinders are firing as part of this well-tuned, well-oiled engine, it's not about sitting in park anymore. Man, it's about moving forward and moving forward fast and moving forward and winning the marathon. So I'd like to leave you today with the same question that I started, but I'd like you to hear it differently this time. If your organization disappeared tomorrow, would the people you serve genuinely feel the loss? You came here today with an answer, but you leave today with a roadmap to change that through relevance, the key, through experience. Now I'm talking about moments, not transactions, real meaningful experience. And through value, that perceived, powerful, heartfelt value. That is what I call the relevance imperative.